up here to be live. Welcome to my video. So this is going to be my review and thoughts of 1990's Jacob's Ladder. And let's see, I think, it's been days since I last looked it up. I think there was at least one other version, or at least one other thing called Jacob's Ladder. Not familiar with that movie or show at all, so not going to be bringing it up. Yes, absolutely love this movie. There will only be spoilers once I get into the thoughts section. I'll verbally let you know, and if you want to skip directly to that, the timecodes will be in the description box. And the movie is rated R, so will this video be. So this movie, this is the first time I've watched it, and this is actually, I thought it was appropriate to do this movie now, because we are mere days away from my 15-year anniversary making YouTube videos. Not having a channel, that's like 18 years, but I wasn't making videos for those first several years. And this is a movie that I've actually been meaning to watch and probably do a video on. That was probably always gonna happen, pretty much, for about 20 years, since I first learned about a certain game being inspired by it. I don't think I want to give it away before I get into the spoiler section. And yeah, for a while I couldn't find an inexpensive copy, and yeah, somewhat recently, sorry for the wait, dude, my friend, longtime subscriber, it's been like, I think he's been subscribed for like 6 years or more by now, frequent commenter, Arts Cafe, requested this movie, which got me back into looking for inexpensive copies. I found one. Here we are. Absolutely, it was everything I hoped for. So yeah, this review, I'm gonna be extremely careful not to spoil. I'm not gonna bring up stuff that I think some other people would before the spoiler section, because this is very much a movie that you really benefit from knowing very little about. Like, you should know it is a horror movie. It's going to be too intense for some people, and yeah, let's see. Yes, I think a good place to start is the technical aspects, because this really is incredibly well made from a technical aspect. Before I dive into that, I will just very briefly say I am not that familiar with director Adrian Lyne. I think, let's see, I'm aware of Fatal Instinct. I haven't watched it. Fatal Attraction, yeah, has nothing to do directly with Basic Instinct, I don't think, but yeah, I don't feel qualified to speak on that one. I did years ago watch Adrian's Lolita. I don't want to derail this video, so I will just put some links in the description box to videos from fellow leftists that I think do a really great job, yeah, talking about that movie. But yeah, he is, from what I've seen in these two movies, very gifted as a technical director. He, and this movie gets a lot out of how it is filmed and edited. The atmosphere is built and maintained very, very effectively through that. He knows when to go for a really, really intense close-up, and just there's a tracking shot in this movie that is one for the ages. Yeah, there's one bit that uses strobe lighting, and it's one of the most effective uses of it that I've ever seen. Like, some of these things, like, you can absolutely go overboard with, and the tracking shot, it's not like De Palma, but not very many directors are De Palma. Even De Palma isn't always De Palma. And yeah, some of these things, it's stuff you'd see overused if the director doesn't really have restraint. And that's something, like, I know that might sound silly for some of the stuff in this movie, because it feels like some of the stuff in this movie goes hard, but there is restraint. It's never try hard, and it's not like overstimulating. I do appreciate some people did not like it at the time, and excuse me, if I understand correctly, at least some of it was that they did feel it went too hard. And this is one of those movies that I think has aged really well, in part because, yeah, when it came out, it went so hard that now, a little while later, it still goes so hard that it really, really works. And actually, by today's standards, it doesn't go as hard as some of the most recent horror movies, but it goes hard enough. It's somewhat similar to, if we're staying with horror movies, something like 1982's The Thing. And, like, as far as other genres, we have something like Face Off, and, yeah, just the creepy stuff in this movie is absolutely intensely creepy, and it is in part, yeah, it's the filming, editing, it's the restraint, and the fact that, yeah, one example of the restraint is the fact that it doesn't try to make everything like overpoweringly, creepy or otherwise scary. There's always something, there's sequences where almost everything is creepy or scary, but they ease you into that. They don't just immediately, and that's, like, the 90s were a decade of excess when it came to movies. And I really appreciate that this one, any excess there is still restraint. I gotta stop saying that word. And it's, yeah, it's not excess for the sake of excess. And it does not at all have the dreaded MTV editing. Some movies from this time were just edited to be so manic, and it was way, way too much. So I know this is an incredibly different genre, but off the top of my head, the live action, the first of the 1990s live action 101 Dalmatians, like, compare that to the original animated. I kind of love the live action. I love both of them, but it's pretty ridiculous. And that kind of thing can work for a kids comedy, but for this, it would be disastrous. But yeah, the creepy stuff, it will take something that is usually comfortable, and twist it just enough that it feels just wrong. It really pokes at your anxiety and really screws with you. And yeah, the cast is fantastic. Like, that, I was not prepared for some of the names. This has Ving Rhames, Pruitt Taylor, Vince. Like, I knew that Tim Robbins himself was in it, but I wasn't expecting all these incredibly talented, yeah. And yeah, Tim Robbins, I saw at least one reviewer say, we need a lead that's more sympathetic for this kind of thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Tim Robbins is perfectly cast because he's capable of going to these places, which I'm not sure I really knew before watching this movie, but he clearly is. Like, sometimes you'll watch a movie where someone who's known, like, when I think Tim Robbins, I do think much more, positive movies, less scary, less intense, less fast. And yeah, he was willing to, but he is also someone, you look at him, especially that smile, and it's just like, this guy, just, yeah, he's I mean, I don't think it was an accident that he was also the lead in, a couple of years after 94, I want to say Shawshank Redemption, because they really wanted you to empathize with this prisoner at a time when a lot of America really didn't want to empathize with prisoners. I'm not going to get into that whole thing. Pop Culture Detective did an amazing video on it. Go watch his video after watching the rest of this one, obviously. But the open on other tabs, you don't forget. Yeah, you know, he has an inherent likability to him. And yeah, they use that well here. It actually, the fact that he goes through some intense stuff makes it all the more, you know, I'm not one of those people who say that every lead character has to be likable, but it does hit, it can hit very hard when the lead is so likable, and then you see him go through, him or her, or they, go through something really upsetting. Let's see, the score is very effective, and I think that might more or less, yeah, I there's so much to talk about with this movie, but I don't want to spoil any of it in the review itself. Yeah, I think that is all that I will say. So, getting into the thoughts sections. So, let's see, thoughts, notes taken while watching. Let's see, there. And there, yes. Okay, so first thing, the one thing that I didn't want to give away in the review itself, but if you want to know just a tiny bit more, before I get into the stuff that you kind of need to have seen the movie to fully, this has some really effective body horror, which, yeah, I think it's best to go into the, you know, yeah. I think a lot of people will be served best by knowing the movie's intense, but not knowing it has body horror. I love that they went so practical with it. This is one of those, I don't know that many 90s horror movies that didn't go hog wild with CGI, and I really appreciate that this one didn't. Apparently, there's no optical effects, which, like, phenomenal. Just, yeah, the effects have aged incredibly well. It's similar to how, you know, 1982's The Thing, you know, yeah, still holds up a lot better than movies that came since. And I'm not going to go off on a thing about the 2011 The Thing. And actually, I watched relatively recently a video that talked about it's not actually the CG that ruins the 2011 The Thing. The YouTuber's called The Morbid Zoo. In general, incredibly talented. Go subscribe to her. But yes, and yeah, the game that I mentioned, that I didn't mention the title of at the start, that this movie inspired, well, really, not just the one game, but the several of the games in the franchise, it's Silent Hill. And yeah, honestly, I would definitely watch this over the first Silent Hill movie. I haven't watched the second. I'm not 100% sure I'm gonna. It sounds pretty bad from everything I've seen. So to be clear, I'm not saying it's bad. I haven't watched it. I couldn't say for sure, but it doesn't sound, yeah, which is too bad, because I definitely do think, like, they took two of the Silent Hill games that are most, like, you can adapt into feature films, and, you know, certainly with the first one they kind of really blew it. Anyway, yes, so yeah, this is not going to be chronological, but yeah, I think the start of the movie does a great job really making you feel like the camaraderie. You know, they're in Nam. They're, you know, making these, you know, it's locker room talk basically, and apparently the masturbation jokes, you know, between Jacob and the Ving Rhames character, whose name escapes me at the moment, that was like improvised, which, yeah, it was legitimately very, very nicely done. And yeah, you know, they do a good job setting up, you know, they were able to find a bright spot even in Nam. And yeah, they must really be friends to be able to make jokes like this and not start a fight. And yeah, I really appreciate, like, the movie actually does kind of tell you what is happening right up front. But like Jacob, we're not ready to accept it. Because we like him, we don't want him to die. So when we see him wake up back in, I want to say, New York, we're kind of relieved. We're like, phew. It was a flashback or a nightmare or something. I appreciate that it's, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It felt like the movie wasn't telling us 100%, at least not right away, if that really was. Later on you see the buddies, and then it feels like, oh, okay, it must have been like a flashback. They were able to save his life after he was stabbed. But yeah, when you see him stabbed, yeah, this movie came out at a time when, if you were making a horror movie or an action movie, there was a pretty high expectation that it was gonna start in Nam. It might not be set in Nam for the rest of it, but it would start there, and maybe a protagonist would, be killed or seemingly killed. And yeah, just fantastic. I really love it, because, like, imagine if, like, I could see how the studio would probably be like, Adrian, buddy, you got it. No, you can't open the movie like that. People are going to be like, well, did he die or didn't he? I don't understand. But it's perfect for the movie because, yeah, like I just said, we and he are in denial about it. Like, and it's very natural. It's very, very believable. They're very psychologically credible. When something bad happens and your mind can't really comprehend it, you try to think of something more positive, right? And apparently some people were like, how could the whole movie be just taking place while he's dying? Well, what do you mean? Like, have you never had a dream where your mind, like, where it felt like you lived out, like, a long time? Like, let's see, the from the very start of the, I guess I'll be calling them the dying moments. From the start of the dying moments to the very end, I mean, is it more than days? I don't think it really is. And yeah, I gotta say, to me, it's completely credible that his mind would go through a number of days and really try to fix things, trying to bring back the things he's lost, whilst another part of his mind is trying to pull him back to reality. There goes gravity. Now, let's see. Yeah, and right from the start, the first really creepy thing we see is at the start of the dying moments. He's on the subway train, and he's asking, not really getting an answer, and yeah, he leaves the train, and then he sees, or wait, is it right away? Yeah, I forget if it's right away, but not long after he starts seeing the demons, and he gets off at the station, and then everywhere is just like locked off, which did, like, he realizes, okay, I can't go this way, I can't go that way, even though, like, it seemed like I was supposed to go that way. What do I do now? Yeah, buddy, welcome to playing a Silent Hill game. That's, you can practically, there's probably a fan edit of the scene where he goes up and like, interacts with it, and like, it goes to still, and it says, crap, it's been so many years since I played Silent Hill. I want to say, this door cannot be opened, or the door is broken. It's something like that, just, yeah. And he gets onto the tracks, steps in a puddle so deep that when he comes back out of it, he is a different person. And yeah, the other subway train, it's technically there is a light coming right at him, go into the light, and also this thing of just, yeah, even if you're not thinking in terms of like metaphor, that is a really scary situation. We all understand, everyone who's lived in a city understands you really don't want to be too close to, that's like, there's a reason they say, what's the phrase? Keep clear until the train has completely stopped moving, or something like that. So yeah, and subway train stations. There are some of those in some Silent Hill games, and yeah, he starts seeing the demons, which later we realize those are not demons. They look like monsters to you. Those are people trying to, or yeah, they're right, not people. They're angels. They're trying to bring him. So yeah, they're trying to take him into the light. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe he was supposed to get hit by that train, and that would have been like, no, dude, you're dead. Like trying to explain math in several different ways to someone who's struggling to understand it the first way. And let's see. Then I think that's when he goes back to Jesse, and yeah, I forget if that's when he mentioned, but at one point at least he mentions, I saw demons, something. Yeah, I think that's when. And yeah, she's not really ready to accept it. Now, before I talk too much more, I wanted to say, because I'm fortunate enough that the DVD came with a couple of deleted scenes, and one of them I think is important for this movie. So I'm going to describe it, and if I understand correctly, wrists a little bit too painful right now to check, but I read someone said that you can apparently find them here on YouTube. I certainly wouldn't rule that out. Otherwise, I'm going to try to explain it well enough. But yeah, there is, I believe it goes right before, very close to the end, after Jacob goes back to the house and before he sees Gabe. Jessie was supposed to show up, and she like morphs. There's a somewhat similar to the Vibro Man, I want to say they're calling him. The guy with he's got like a sack over his face, and he's like shaking his head extremely fast side to side, which, no, not an optical effect. They shot it at a different frame rate so that when it plays back, it looks like he's moving his head like dangerously fast. Kids, do not try that at home. Kids shouldn't even be watching this movie. But yeah, yeah, she shakes her head no, and starts to morph, and at the end, it, yeah, Jesse has turned into Jacob, who smiles this creepy smile, and basically, Jesse is a part of Jacob. That's part of why, some of she changes her mind a lot, and there's a misogynistic joke in there, but I do not think that her use in the movie is misogynistic, despite some misogyny in some of Adrian Lyne's other work. But sometimes he'll be trying to like make sense of what he's seen, and Jesse will say that can't be real, or she'll reject that what he's saying, and that works if you're thinking of, yeah, Jacob is starting to, if not accept the truth, he's starting to, he's thinking there's something, something going on, and she shuts it down because she's the part of him that doesn't want to accept that there's anything wrong at all. And which I guess means that the scene of her having sex on the dance floor is supposed to, because with the demon, which is an amazing design, by the way. I guess that's supposed to be like him thinking that the demons are, hurting him in a way, and that part of him is going along with it, something along those lines. It works quite well as a metaphor. Let's see. Right, I really love that as soon as we do get into the dying moments, stuff starts happening that makes us think, wait, is is this a dream? And then not long after, like, if they had spent forever with the demons on the train and him almost getting hit by a train and such, which also, like, the train almost hitting him, that is one of those things where, like, yeah, it feels like a nightmare, but I mean, some people have been hit by trains in real life. Sometimes the conductor is just not quite fast enough to brake. But yeah, it has us wondering, but we're not completely ready to accept that he's dying yet. It plants that seed, and then over the course of the movie, that seed is gradually watered more and more. And let's see, that brings us to, he goes to, right, yes. Adrian Lyne has confirmed that there's a behind the scenes on the DVD. Yeah, if you can get the DVD that has like a behind the scenes and the additional scenes, I think they call them, with director commentary, that's really worth watching. Lyne has confirmed, the fact that Jesse is, or was it Lyne? Someone in the behind the scenes confirmed the fact that Jesse is sexualized a lot. Let's see. I think the very first time we see her, she's getting into the shower with him. We just met her, and immediately that, and several scenes she's like topless in like lingerie kind of, so that can really paint how an audience, perhaps especially a male audience, perceives her. That is a purposeful thing, basically, like his actual wife, when he in his dying moments, when he's seeing her and the kids and such, that was the nuclear family, and he lost Gabe, and that was devastating to him. And Jesse is sort of the escape, both from the harsh reality of losing a child, and also he's still not ready to admit that he's dying. So that's what's going on there. And yeah, she is basically, she goes back and forth between being this sort of male gazy, almost male fantasy of, like, it's one of those things. I remember, crap, which is it? I think it's it's Road Trip, the first Road Trip movie, where we're seeing all these naked women, and then because it's a story being told by a character, one of the listeners on says, what, they were just standing around, girls don't just stand around naked. So I could imagine, I don't know for sure, but I could imagine it is not necessarily the most realistic thing that you would just, although, I mean, some, there is also a sense of, like, what's the word, like, once you become really comfortable with each other, something like that. But yeah, it might not be super realistic, but again, it's there as just, she's at times there to make him feel safe again after, from realizing he's dying, and also the dying moments, demons and such, as he perceives them as demons at that point in the movie. Let's see, then we have and I think it's too bad that they cut her transformation, because it really is effective. But apparently they got like a note back from a test screening with someone who's just horrified by it, so they decided to cut it. And I mean, I can appreciate it. The movie is quite horrifying, and it certainly is. It's extremely intense for 1990. It's still intense by today's standards, just not quite as much. But yeah, for sure, it is the kind of thing that, and it's such a delicate balance. You gotta be careful not to overstimulate the audience, not push it too hard, too far. Let's see, but I do think that it's really important to get that in there. Let's see, at times Jesse, right, and another thing about her, some of the time being topless. She's topless when they're at home. She's not topless when they're at, like, the dance floor, even though they're there's the sex on the dance floor, which is of course revealed to be, dying moments. He's just seeing that wouldn't have actually happened like that, in part because of the demon and the whole thing, and certainly people would be reacting if it was. But the let's see, yeah, she's not topless in a situation where she wouldn't be. Let's see, that brings, yes, to finish off the Jesse thing, some of the time she's like pulling away. She's very, very harsh with him when he, collapses during the party. She comes home and she says, I'm so embarrassed, and even said, if you're, what was it, if you're going crazy, do it without me, or something like that. Just really, really, yeah. And again, I'm sure some misogynists saw that and said, say female nature. But again, it's him trying to struggle against there's Jesse is the part of him that wants him to be happy. And when something big happens that might make him really unhappy, then it's actually, she pushes back hard against it, threatens to leave, that sort of thing. She burns the pictures, and also, we get the names, which later right. And I appreciate, he said Jezebel, and because that is also part of what's going on with her character there. Let's see, yes, the pictures, as soon as he sees the picture of Gabe, it reminds him of what he lost, and it can help in the mourning process, grieving process. But she takes it because she she's there to distract him from the pain in his life. She's perhaps basically part of trying to maybe not ease him into his death, but maybe distract him from the fact that he's dying for as long as possible, something like that. Let's see, but yeah, she burns the pictures, says, I don't like things that make you cry, which is why there's never an onion to be found in the home. And let's see, I think that brings us nicely into when when he's driving with the mail. I don't know if that is where there's a bit in the trailer where there's something like moving in his mail truck, car, whatever. It's too bad that was probably also one of those things where people thought it went too far or something like that. But that looked really cool and very Silent Hill-ish. But yeah, the girl singing "Hey, Mr. Postman," that was quite charming. I think this movie actually handles the representation decently. The female characters are perhaps more representations than characters, but then like a lot of characters in this are representations. They're not quite real. And certainly I want to say her name is Elizabeth Pena. It's a tour de force. Like, she's asked to do a lot and she delivers every step of the way. And yeah, the African Americans, I could see an argument that at least some of the time there's some exoticization. Is that the word? They're singing. We don't really see white people singing. And you have the one like palm reader, but then like some of them are, I want to say the word is orderlies. One of them is one of the soldiers, and he has lines and personality. Ving Rhames does a great job. Yeah, I would say that they do, as far as I can tell, they do a pretty good job. And the palm reader is trying to help. It's not like they're at the very least not really negative stereotypes, but I do appreciate stuff like palm reading, like psychic stuff. There's a lot of white people who see that as something that non-whites, BIPOC individuals do. Now, let's see. I think that covers. Yeah, I've already said some stuff about the party. I think they did a fantastic job on the whole sex scene. The fact that nobody else reacts and the strobe lighting, and every so often it'll cut back to Jacob's horrified reaction, and he's the only one who seems to, you know, either see it or care. So that's a really nicely done thing. And yeah, the part at the end where like the spike comes out her mouth, just wow, really intense imagery. And yeah, let's see and I feel like there's also something, there with the demon having sex with his partner, that is the flip side to, there's a lot of insecure cishet men who, if they have a female partner who is like, having sex with them and such, every so often that they might think, wait, is she having sex with other men also? And yeah, essentially the supernatural horror version of that is she's having sex with a demon, yeah, the palm reading is excellent. Like, I love the fact that she never really stops smiling or laughing, even after she says it's not funny, because he's like laughing it off. He's thinking, oh, yeah, right, dead already. What, like I was stabbed in Nam, So that's yeah, and let's see. I think that covers the club. So I don't remember 100% the order of scenes, but let's do yeah, there's the part where he's like walking down the, what's it called? There's this, yeah, there's this like, he's walking and like a car tries to run him over and he dodges out of the way just in time. And I like, we see that the guy who later talks to him about the ladder, he was there, and he wasn't able to approach him just then. But again, that plants it in our mind, because when we first see that scene, we don't necessarily think, oh, that guy's going to be important later. We might just think, oh, thank goodness that guy, Good Samaritan was there to tell him, to jump out of the way of the car because he hadn't noticed it on his own, something like that. Now, there is something about the car trying to hit him. Fun fact, that wasn't in the script. They actually were just supposed to film Jacob walking down, walking further down there, and then some people spotted Tim Robbins, tried to run him over, stuck their head out after missing him, and shouted, "That was for Howard the Duck," and then sped off. And then later they filmed the bit with a different car with the demons in the back. That movie is way more fun than it has any right to be. Like, it's not good, but it's entertaining. Now, and to be clear, I'm not saying that it's his fault that it's bad. I feel like he did what he was told to. He did the best he could to make that whole thing, his part of it work. Now, let's see. Comment down below if you think the MCU should do a full-on Howard the Duck movie now that he is in the MCU. Let's see. He's made more appearances than some of us thought he would. Anyway, yes. But yeah, that again, if he thinks that if he can feel someone trying to pull him away from life, and he doesn't realize they're angels trying to take him to the afterlife, yeah, they would seem like demons trying to murder him, so yeah, that was very nicely done. Right, I've seen some people say that they think there's too much of the political thing. I don't know. I mean, I think it works. I think it's about the right amount. Like, it feels like the kind of thing of like, I did find it a little weird there at the very, very end when we get this thing of like, there actually were experiments, which if I understand correctly, technically there was some stuff like that, and certainly, Agent Orange killed a lot of people, including people that they hadn't, the people making and dispersing it weren't intending to kill. It was literally just supposed to remove, I want to say, leaves so that they could see, so that you couldn't hide, so that the Viet Cong could not hide in, behind the leaves in the trees, something along those lines. So, but yeah, it killed a number of people. But yeah, right at the very end, right before the end credits start, we have this disclaimer saying, it's based on a true story. And I was like, I mean, I didn't realize that was what you were meaning to say. I feel like if you just wanted a message about that, I would have thought you would make more of the movie about that. But I guess, I don't know, maybe the writer and director did want more of the movie to be that, and it just didn't quite end up as, because like, yeah, and like there at the end, I guess it's him realizing that that's what must have happened, him like rationalizing what happened, because he did see, we do realize he did actually see that he was stabbed by one of his own, which I also think they did a great job hiding at the very start, because we kind of assume it must be like a Viet Cong soldier. Now, that's something I quite appreciate. I don't think we see a single Viet Cong in the entire movie, and considering the time, I worry that it would have been racist. And yeah, like at the end of the day, like it's still, Renegade Cut said in his video on the Rambo movies, apparently, the people making the Rambo movies think that the tragedy of Vietnam was that it hurt Americans. It wasn't that, these American soldiers were murdering and traumatizing all these Vietnamese people. But this is still about, the soldiers and such, but at least it doesn't also demonize the Viet Cong. And in fact, like, it says that, like, if it says something really negative about Vietnam, it's that the American, government and military were treating the soldiers badly, using this drug on them. Right, and apparently the idea is supposed to be that the reason Jacob himself wasn't affected by the drug is that, he had the runs. They say that at the start of the movie, and he kept crapping out the drug. That's why he was the only one, only one of the only ones not affected. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think I've said all that I wanted to about that. Yeah, I think they did a great job on the, like, there's a lot of exposition when the whole thing, the conspiracy thing is explained to him near the end. They do a really great job not letting it become boring. The acting, the filming, and the editing, just really phenomenal job. Because there is, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of two people talking. There's nothing creepy visually in frame, and nothing really happens. They're not in immediate threat. The Terminator, the original movie, famously, when there's a lot of exposition that has to be delivered, it's like, oh, they're on the run, or they're in a car hiding, and stuff like that. And here, not really, because the people who did try to kill him haven't, if this took place right after he was almost run over, it would play completely different. But yeah, they knew that they could keep our interest and not let it ever become boring for a second without having that kind of tension. Also, in part because it is like the culmination. Like, there's been these little things, it wraps up the whole army thing, what's going on with the army. I, as someone who struggles with pain, including in my back, I really appreciate the depiction of a chiropractor as a saint. Because, yeah, I'm not going to say every single individual one. I've heard of some cases of, like, I think it's one of those things. I feel like it's worse in America because there's less regulation, and it's frustrating to me that people say, all chiropractors are bad. Whereas, like, no, lack of regulation is bad. Like, you might as well say all food companies are bad, because lack of regulation means that every so often there's food that's, just, yeah, But yeah, chiropractors, the really really talented and ethical ones, which in my experience, like here in Denmark, I've only encountered that kind of chiropractor. Yeah, it's amazing how much they can help. So yeah, let's see, and yeah, apparently like I think it was Adrian Lyne has been like approached by a number of chiropractors over the years after this movie came out, thanking him for actually showing how it's like, and it's absolutely true. Like yeah, it can hurt the cracks and the whole thing, but it helps. It's shown to relieve his pain, and really yeah. I quite like the bit where he goes into the hospital and like, I'm gonna wrap this around your neck if you don't back off. Just yeah. He doesn't like it's one of those. There's that trope of like guy waking up in a hospital unexpectedly and pulling the tubes out and such. This is adjacent to that. I feel like he's like, okay, if you're not gonna get yourself out of here, I will. Let's see. I think that brings us to yeah. I love about this movie that every so often Jacob will wake up, be in a completely different situation, and it's like clear that at least something has to be in his mind. There's no way that all of this is happening, and that again is something that at least one of the Silent Hill games does something with, that I also think they did a great job. But yeah, you have this thing of the what's the word? Yeah. Every so often he'll wake up, as he's like being transported in the helicopter after he was stabbed in Nam, or that sort of thing, or and yeah, at well, yeah, at one point he wakes up. It's not Jesse. It's his wife. And then he says, "I had a dream that I was with Jesse from the post office." And it is that thing because yeah, there are some men, and I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing as long as you don't like act on it and don't like actively fantasize about it, unless you are in a polyamorous relationship. But yeah, sometimes you'll see someone, you'll find them attractive, and they might show up in your dreams even if you have no intention of cheating on, if you have a partner. Let's see. And she also shows up with the doctors, so there's clearly something going on there. There's been no prior indication that why would she be there? That doesn't make any sense. This is not like a visiting kind of situation, and nobody else is like, what is the male person doing here? Just yeah. Right, I've talked a little bit about the designs. I love the guy with like just no eyes, that like I want to say he's the one who administers the injection. That was also a fantastic, if a little bit of movie magic love. If you are not aware, the way that they did the thing with the syringe is the needle is like retractable, and it squeezes out a little bit of stage blood, so it looks as though it's going into his forehead and blood is coming out. And that is a horrifying thing. It really is upsetting to watch. And yeah, even knowing that, the scene still has a strong impact, so that's. And again, like, yeah, if someone is trying to take you, if an angel's trying to take you into the afterlife and you really are hanging on to life, yeah, it might look like they're sticking a needle in your brain. Not even in his eye. I guess he didn't lie. And let's see, or he swore. Crap. Yeah. I forget how that rhyme goes. I think it's swearing that you won't say or do a certain thing. Anyway, yes, the what was the other thing? Yeah, I love, perhaps the most iconic scene is when he is wheeled in. At first he's just taken to normal hospital, and I like the thing about stole my wallet. Who? Santa Claus. Which I feel is just a phenomenal metaphor for Christmas under capitalism. But and that was also just great, like just Santa walking up, checking and grabbing the wallet and walking off. Just yeah. Let's see but yeah, you know, first he's just wheeled into the hospital. They check, and then they say better take him to X-ray, and then we get this really just iconic scene of him being wheeled past, and you know, there's it looks like it looks in a state of disrepair. There's a lot of upsetting things we see. We see the bike, Gabe's bike, the wheel still spinning, so it's like it just happened, you know, which connects it with, you know, yeah, this is a place of death. This is he is in a place that takes you to the afterlife, and they're trying to bring him there. You know, it is a timeless void. This is where they grabbed Gabe, and now they're trying to take him, and he keeps resisting. Let's see, but yeah, I think it was very effective in being scary. The various, you know, mental health patients. I don't love the ableism of it, because it does at the end of the day mean that in real life people who watch this movie might be less inclined to want to be near mental health patients. It doesn't, you know, it can make people think, you know, oh, these people definitely deserve to be helped. But there's also some people who are going to be like, well, I don't want to be too close to someone who would do that kind of thing, you know. So yeah, I don't love that. But I do appreciate, you know, it was, you know, back when this was made, you know, today, like, the 2018 Halloween did a somewhat similar thing, and then the sequel, Halloween Kills, actually tried to course correct that and make up for it. You know, today there's going to be backlash if you do that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily lead to them trying to do better, but sometimes it thankfully does. Let's see, but yeah, and they, you know, they straight up say, "You're dead." I'm not dead. I'm alive. Then why are you here? You know, and yeah, again, you know, and yeah, that kind of seems to stump him, because on some level he does know, he just doesn't want to admit it, you know, and that's yeah, you know, sometimes when we human beings are confronted by a truth that we really don't like, we might just not, you know, I don't think he particularly says anything, or does he just say, I don't know, or something like that, you know, but he doesn't have a good counter argument, you know. Let's see, and the way they strap him down is also really, really scary and creepy. And let's see, I think that right, yeah. So yeah, you know, he sometimes sees his wife, and we, you know, she did actually exist. It's just that when he sees her, you know, at least one of the times, you know, Gabe is still alive, so he's, you know, and the let's see, what was the other thing? Yeah, you know, the kids are quite cute. I guess something worse could happen to Kevin McAllister than being home alone twice. And let's see, and that was also a great bit of casting. I appreciate, I get why he went uncredited, because, like, was it his father or agent or both or something? If at least one person said this really doesn't fit with Macaulay's image, you know. Although, didn't he also do The Good Son? But maybe that was later. Actually, yeah, I think that might have been later. So that was them trying to change up his image. But yeah, this really didn't go with the Home Alone image, you know. So I appreciate that. But yeah, it's, again, you know, he has this, as a kid at least. I haven't. Well, let's see. I guess he was on Some More News as a cameo, you know. So I've seen him at least a little bit since he became an adult, but most of what I've seen Macaulay Culkin, you know, yeah, was when he was a child actor, and yeah, he had this very innocent look to him and this very charming smile. So yeah, you see him, and he keeps, he's walking around with this little suitcase that plays a melody, and he's the one who takes Jacob into the afterlife because he's already there, and when Jacob is ready to go to the afterlife, he will take him there. But yeah, the let's see, the thing with, yeah, he's like, don't close the door, don't, just this stuff, don't go, and he says, I'm not going anywhere, which is a wonderful little thing, because again, if you take it at face value, if you watch this scene completely out of context and you didn't know, and no one told you that, oh, later it's going to be revealed that he's actually, both of them are dead. It's, yeah, especially if you watch it and you don't know that when you see this scene in the movie, you already know that Gabe is dead. Again, I suppose that's the thing. Yeah, technically, when he wakes up there, it's like, wait, did he dream that Gabe was dead? Because at this point, he's mentioned that Gabe died. So again, it's this wonderful, you really don't know until the very, very end when everything is made clear. And I do appreciate that they did give a clear answer. It's this very kind of bittersweet ending, and those are very difficult to pull off. Personally, when I watch horror movies, a lot of time my favorite kinds of endings are the downer ending. I'm glad that they didn't, like, if he just didn't move on to the after, or he went to hell or something, but it's clearly implied that he's going to heaven. You've got the light and going upwards, going upstairs into the, the yeah. Let's see. They are taking the stairway to heaven, which I appreciate. Like, apparently, originally the design of it was, they ended up feeling like it was kind of corny. It was very, like, stereotypically positive stairway to heaven imagery, and I think they made the right choice. I can appreciate. I think it has a time and place. I don't think this movie was it. I think it would have gone against the atmosphere too much, and we do still, like, you watch the ending, and, like, you might disagree with it, but you're probably gonna understand, oh yeah, he's going to heaven, let's see, but yeah, let's see, if you watched Gabe being like, don't go, and Jacob saying, I'm not going anywhere, without context, you would just think, oh, it's, sweet little kid, he's worried about, he's scared, he doesn't want to be alone, maybe he thinks there's monsters under the bed, this kind of thing. And once in the context of the scene, at the time when we and Jacob have not accepted yet that he's dead, it's basically him saying, I'm never losing you again. And maybe, like, I'm certain this is not a dream. I don't know if you can hear the garbage. It shouldn't last too much longer. I believe my voice is high enough that you're not going to be missing any of my wonderful words. Let's see, but yeah, once you've watched the entire movie, yeah, it's like, it's Gabe trying to get Jacob to go into the afterlife with him, leave limbo, Mobile Avenue, if you will, and yeah, Jacob not really understanding that that's what's going on, and just wanting to yeah, have Gabe back in his life, but yeah, symbolically, Jacob walking away from Gabe there, rather than, them, like, if Jacob I'm of the opinion that if Jacob was ready, Gabe could have taken them both to the afterlife at that exact point in the movie. But yeah, he's not, and Gabe is, like, trying to implore him, we have to go to the afterlife, you have to accept that you're dead. And Jacob just isn't ready to accept, to the point where he doesn't even understand what's being asked. And that is, of course, again, like, even if we're not talking about life or death and that kind of thing, throughout life, sometimes we're we need to do a certain thing, and if we don't understand that thing, we won't even realize that was what we were supposed to do. Now, let's see. I think that, yeah, I'll talk some about the conspiracy. Yeah, I really liked how different, at least some of the time, the veterans are once they're back home. There's still some, yeah, some of the dynamic is intact, but yeah, they're much more. And we, at one point we see, one of them on the phone, and the camera turns and we see all of them are sitting there. All of them do agree that this is the course of action. And yeah, Jason Alexander as the lawyer, and we get this thing of he tells. Yeah, they do a good job at first making it seem like, oh, this is actually gonna work. They're gonna be able to and then typical conspiracy storyline. Yeah, we get this thing about how they can't get to the truth. It's too and the lawyer says, I checked up on you. You were never even in Vietnam. And that is I suppose the idea is that some part of him is trying to avoid the truth that he died in Vietnam, and going as far as saying no, never in Vietnam at all. Right, I love the part there at the end when he goes home and there's like the table is set, and clearly some eating has taken place, and again because it's empty, then it feels really really creepy, because there are signs of life here, and that's creepy in a way that if the table wasn't set, it that just wouldn't be quite as creepy. They're creepy in a different way. This is the kind of thing they're going for with the creepiness. Yeah, the other bit with the, let's see, he goes to, I guess it's a hospital, and he asks, where's that, can I see that doctor? Is he in, or something like that? And he's told that doctor, let's see, first, yeah, the receptionist says, we never had a doctor here by that name. It's very creepy. And then she like drops the what's it called? Yeah, actually I have no idea what it's called, but yeah, bares her head. We see at the top of her head there's this creepy demon-y thing there, which is fairly reminiscent of it reminds me of the nurses from the first Silent Hill game, which there's a parasite thing going on there, but yeah. And he runs, and he gets, he's told, oh, he died a month ago. His car blew up. Now, blew up could mean a couple of different things. I'm pretty sure he's talking about an explosion, and not that like it got way bigger and now the doctor's just too embarrassed to show his face. Like, honey, I blew up the kid. Anyway. And let's see. Yeah, the part where like he's burning up, which, and has to cool off, and that is also a thing with like if you're dying, he's like, what happened IRL, or yeah, I suppose not IRL, but what actually happened, what, the parts of the movie that aren't his dying moments. He was stabbed in the gut and was bleeding out for a while, and yeah, I've heard that can make you feel intensely hot and or intensely cold, something along those lines. So yeah. Let's see, the right, and I like the line there at the end. He put up quite a fight, though. That was the movie, him fighting. Some people apparently think that the movie is like, oh, it's just a waste of time. No, nothing really happened. The whole thing is just in his head. Yeah, but it's exploring his character, though. You get to know who he is, what he wishes, what he misses, and just see this like vision of, what is it like if you're struggling to hold on to life before you die, which, we can't be told, Personally, I don't believe in an afterlife. I'm not saying you're wrong if you do, but okay, let's go with, we can't really know here on Earth, in life, we cannot know what it is like to die after having fought for a while. We can't know what thoughts go through your head, but this feels like a very, when there are people who temporarily died and then were brought back, and when they, there's that, thing about, oh, my life flashed before my eyes kind of thing, and yeah, we're seeing sort of that, not exactly the way that it's sometimes thought of. It's not completely linear, and yeah, it's not all of it, but it's some of the most, yeah, his memories of being happy with his wife and kids, his memory of Gabe dying, his desire for Jesse, his time, well, yeah, I guess, let's see, the stuff with the conspiracy is like, that's what he thinks would have happened if he really had survived Nam and gone back. Yeah. Let's see, that was also a thing, like when you see the drugs take effect at the very start and then later you see them back in New York, that again is a thing of, well, I guess maybe it was at least partially a dream, or I guess maybe they were rescued by, but it looked pretty serious, the effects of the drug. Now, let's see. I feel like there's at least one. Right. The ice bath, which I saw one user review describe as literally chilling, which, yeah. And that's another one of those things where, like, I know how they did it, and I'll lift the curtain briefly, and it still has an incredible effect. They're not pouring ice into a bathtub that has an actual living actor in it. That's not that much at the very least. It very much looks like it. One of the people there is like, is there anything I can do to help Jacob? Is there anything I could get? And one of the others goes, yes, it's ice. What it actually is Jell-O. Because when Jell-O is frozen, you can't tell that it, like, used to be gelatinous, It looks like an ice cube, but it's not particularly cold at all. It's nowhere near, or hold on. The individual Jell-O, I want to say those are cold to the touch. So they were probably careful to not get too much of it right near his skin. It's not going to disseminate cold the way that actual ice cubes are, because the ice cubes melt, and then the cold of the ice makes the water that he's in cold. But the Jell-O, yeah, like in time it'll thaw, but it won't. The cold is like the outer thing, not through and through, like with actual ice cubes. So yeah, and it looks completely convincing. If you don't know it, you wouldn't necessarily guess it, because it looks completely like it. I think that does cover everything. Yeah, just absolutely amazing movie. So glad I was finally able to watch it. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, right. Yeah. I'm gonna butcher his name, but I'm gonna try. YouTuber, fellow left-wing media commentary YouTuber, if it'll load the page. There we go. Anthony, I'm sorry, dude. Gramuglia? Is that how you pronounce it? Actually recently did a video. What was the... I'm struggling to find it right now. It's got to be in here. I'll find it real quick. Yes, called Cozy Horror Movies to Watch Before Halloween. And he specifically mentioned this movie and its ending as being cozy, and said that he'd shown it to people and they felt, you should just go watch this video. But just, I think he did a really great job talking about it. And yeah, I 100% get what he means about the movie. In general, excellent YouTuber. Definitely subscribe to him. Yeah, that is it for this one. So yeah, please comment, thumbs up, subscribe. I would like to do another movie soon. It's going to depend on stuff like physical pain, but hopefully I'll be able to in the not too distant future, somewhere in time and space.